Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy, and nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings,
And ourselves.
we stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We
will find peace
in
all
all
the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world heroes among us, and every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in us all. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find a place called home, where
talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Once again.
Now
There
I'm
he is.
flipping here, but I may flip again.
Random flipping going on. That's okay.
Well, and tonight's topic, Glenn is responsible for getting me down this rabbit hole. This one's going to be interesting because it is a AI. This is going to be one of those AI nights, but not like the typical AI that we look at. We're going to be looking at the age of AI, and not the age like that we're living in, but the idea of using AI for reverse aging. A technology that has really come a long way in the last, especially the last year, but the last couple of years, it's been developing fast.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where, it's still preliminary steps in terms of, we're not quite there yet. We can't quite give somebody a pill, an anti-age at this point. But at the same time, we can see promising glimmers of hope down that pathway at this point.
Yeah. And pills are just one of the things they're going to be talking about in all of this. There's some fascinating approaches that they're taking to both the physical side and the body that we're dealing with, and reversing aging. A word you're going to hear throughout all of these videos: longevity. And they've kind of coined this like longevity science. The goal is to, for some, I think it's to live forever, but I think for some it's just about extending, how long we actually live.
Yeah. And in some cases, it's stuff that looks into things like, autophagy, killing off cells that are dead already, but getting rid of them and actually recycling those materials, and not just having a cell that's sitting there consuming energy and not doing its intended purpose. So things like that also help, cleaning out the system in that way is some of the things that they talk about when it comes to longevity. One thing also comes down to telomere length. When it comes down to the ends of the chromosomes, you'll hear them talk about that at different points in, this type of research. When you go down these rabbit holes, there's a lot of different things that they get into, but there've been they did tests on, cells. They worked their way up to doing tests on mice. They've started working their way up towards monkey brains and things like that to get into actual human tissue to try to see if these things are effective in those places. And so far, everything I've seen has been promising. But again, we would have to look at a lot of different research, and it's still early phases.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, stem cells get mentioned here and there in some of this research.
Exactly. Especially when they can be, basically reprogrammed, to become other cells. And the question is if they're able to revert or have cells get to another form from where they are currently, and if you can do it in a targeted way. That's the important thing.
Yeah. The theories are interesting. Whether they turn into the actual science, only time will tell.
Exactly. But we are in that time right now where, we can do a lot of the experiments in a virtual scenario. We can cover a lot of ground that way, and then really narrow the focus of the actual experiments to places that seem like they would have the most possible benefit.
Yeah, and when you first showed it to me, like, part of me was like, "Oh, this is crazy. This isn't safe if we're using like AI to like simulate to try to solve some of these things."
Mhm.
But at the same time, this is a much safer approach than if we were to go straight to human testing on this.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases with the AI, they're trying to do things like narrow down a field. Like they might have, 4 billion proteins that could affect something, and they can try to narrow it down from there, or 4 billion molecules that could affect what they're trying to do, and they can have the simulations narrow that down to a few thousand, which would save just decades or centuries really of research time in terms of not having to go down all these ones that would potentially be dead ends. Now, there is the question of sometimes AI gets things wrong. We know that.
Yeah.
Sometimes AI makes things up. We know that. So it could be that they miss something important. It could be that they send us down a wild goose chase. But I think that the positive possibilities outweigh the negative possibilities in that regard.
Yeah. I think where AI is actually benefiting is where it tends to, as a super calculator. It's
Mhm.
making the math simpler in a way that they can actually wrap their heads around the math.
It allows us to conquer problems that were just insurmountable before because we didn't have, the compute resource or the time. You don't have, a million years of compute resource to throw at a particular problem. But if you can narrow that problem down using AI and get it down, to a few things that'll take a few weeks, of compute time, all of a sudden it's a manageable problem.
Yeah. We're going to need more RAM and a bigger computer.
I think we need a bigger box.
So let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at tonight. To the IT cave we go.
Ah.
And I did want to mention this one because this is where the rabbit hole started last week when you showed me this one in moonshots. Peter Diamandis did an awesome interview, worth checking out if you're interested in this stuff. He did an interview with David Sinclair, who's one of the ones who's innovating AI development in this field. And it got me thinking about this approach. A great interview, very balanced and not like, not trying to like promote it, asking the right questions, as a good interview should be. So
Exactly.
I would recommend after the show checking out this interview. It's over at Peter's YouTube site, and you'll definitely get more insight into what we're going to be talking about tonight. Yep, at Peter Diamandis over on YouTube, and it's right there. And this whole moonshots series of videos covers a lot of this stuff really, really well.
Yeah. And that's that's the moonshots are, right? The big answers to the big problems, the big questions.
Yep. Shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
And our first one will be to start it off, Sabina Hassenfelder. This channel, love this channel. She's one of my science gals that I go to all the time. And
exactly.
This one was interesting because she's talking about AI will hit a wall in 2026 if nothing changes. And it kind of reminds me of that same situation back in the 80s or the 90s and 2000s when they started talking about CPU and how like the way that they develop and how much time it takes for development there. And when you will hit walls, we're kind of going back into the same situation with that technology now with AI.
Yeah. Well, with Moore's law, it was basically the doubling of of the number of transistors that you could have in a certain space every 18 months or so. But the thing was, over time, they were saying if you extrapolate forward with that, you're going to see a spot where you do hit a wall. But that's where we come up with different types of architecture, where then the FinFET architecture will change, or they'll come up with a new a new way of doing things where all of a sudden we can solve problems faster. And that's where, AI comes in also, because we're able to better leverage the hardware that we have using AI to get faster answers, or at least again narrow down problems, narrow down the large vast a number of solutions down to something that's manageable for regular compute tasks.
Yeah, and her key word there is if nothing changes. So, she's looking at it fairly here.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and again, when we
she's
look at
so
the
smart.
when we look at the rate of AI progress over, again, the last few years, even, I think that it has outpaced things where we thought we would be at this point, and we were already kind of looking at that exponential growth curve at the time back then. So we're already kind of getting past that. So
Yeah.
it really is hard to wrap your head around where we are on that exponential curve. Like we are at getting to the vertical part of that curve.
Yeah, and I trust her observation when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and our second video, to lead into the whole concept of anti-aging and the idea, why life speeds up as you get older, and how to slow it down. And this is something that, like, I always suspected. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting older faster as I get older, and I'd like to know why.
Sure. And a lot of times it feels like time goes faster, just, but at the same time, it depends what you're doing, right? Like if you're outside on a summer day when you're a kid, it seems like the afternoon can go by in a blink. But if you're just sitting there, just, on a bench waiting for, something to happen at the DMV, an hour could seem like a day and a half, I mean, it all depends on what you're doing. So time is relative in that way for sure.
Yeah, and I think about like when I was 14 and I wanted to be 20 and it took forever. And then I turned 20 and it's like, oh my God, I'm 21, I'm 30, I'm 40. Like it just keeps going faster.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so sleeping Storian is going to explain like why some of that exists. Some of it's mental,
Yeah.
some of it's physical.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to get to the big question about, is reverse aging possible through AI? The discussion that initial interview was all about. And it does seem like it's possible. And it does seem like they're kind of finding possible approaches to it. And this will get us warmed up with technomics. Asking the big question, what can AI do to help in this kind of science?
Nice.
And I wanted to include this one because this is a person that in this longevity science is getting a lot of talk out there. Anybody who's talking about this science does mention and reference Brian Johnson, because he's kind of he's the big guinea pig in a lot of this. He decided, to take research into his own hands and develop what he calls a protocol. It's a $2 million a year one. So before you think I'm like endorsing taking this route or anything, the approach he's taking has some interesting results, some interesting theories. There's people on both sides of this fence. Some people say, "Oh, this is a scam," and they just don't believe that anti-aging can work this way. But there's also those on the serious side of it that look at this research and look at the results and say there's something to be learned from here. And it's getting beyond Brian now. There's more people that are starting to take this approach. So we're gonna see over the next couple of years how these results turn out. But he's a fascinating one to watch in this field because of the approach he's taking.
And for me, even before getting into extreme cases of, like I said, if it's $2 million protocol, there's a lot that goes into it, right? With that, it's not just diet and exercise, but at the same time, like everybody, what you can access is things like diet and exercise and things where you can try to get yourself to live as long as you can, so that these longevity advances will have, ability to help us, and you're trying to do your best to get to the point where you can benefit from these down the road, right? So
Yeah.
we need to survive to that point in order to benefit from them. So to me, the idea is to try to just do things that are healthy now to get us there.
And when it comes to his initiative in this and why I think he got motivated. He was 47, running a multi-million-dollar company. Ended up selling that to kind of focus on this, and I think his main motivation is to solve it. Now that AI is as advanced as it is, to live long enough to reach the solution. So he's trying to make the solution before, like, he gets too old, because if you get too old before the technology, then you're not going to be the one living forever. You might be the one who invented it, but getting to that point where it will work is a race for some of these people. Like, they feel like they've got to do this now. Otherwise, if they wait too long, you can't wait 100 years to come up with a solution here. Otherwise, it's not your solution; it's your grandchildren's.
Sure. And again, a lot of it comes down to whether living healthier for longer is the main idea to me. Where it's not just living more years; it's living more years as an active person. That's important to me. As far as that goes.
And again, one of the things about him and his approach, part of it is very much driven on that mentality, like stay in shape, eat the right foods, and knowing the things that he is trying, and it is a little more extreme approach than some of the other things. He's trying certain substances that you normally wouldn't think, like this is something you'll do to anti-age, but he's trying to see if, like, out of box thinking there might find some alternate approaches. Now,
Also,
I'm curious to see, like, the results.
Right. And when it comes to, rigorous scientific testing, like that's where, one person doing one thing isn't really a scientific study, right? So it's an anecdotal case. So that's where, that's important not to put too much stock into a single case of something. Like if it's one person taking some regimen, but if we're doing a scientific study where it's a double blind study and you have, these 1,000 people doing one thing and these other 1,000 people are, doing the same protocol, or they think they're doing the same protocol, but they're getting a placebo, and you see what the effects are, that sort of a thing. Like that's the way you really find the solutions in a large enough study. But it also depends on what the things are, whether that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Certain things, it's too much of a process to try to get that many people involved in something that large.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I can say about this is he is documenting everything. Like, he's got his channel and he's telling his story through that channel, but he's being documented, and they're really studying him to see if there's something to these approaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then to finish things off, this channel, Longevity Science News, definitely going to be tracking this one because it's the best channel for covering what we're looking at tonight. And here he's going to go through 5 of the big innovations that have just come out in 2026 when it comes to age reversal. 5 real innovations that will help to stop us from growing old, to kind of take that proactive approach before you have to start rebuilding cells using stem cell approaches. And the one that fascinated me here is, yes, scientists figured out how to regrow teeth. And I was like, wow, that's better than having to get an implant if it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to get started, we're going to start with Sabina, and that's at Sabina Hassenfelder over on YouTube. And again, science for every science lover, whether we're looking at the universe, whether we're looking at technology. She goes into everything. And on the physics side is where, like, when I first started going there, it's all that physics talk that I'm like, Man, this makes me want to go back to college.
Absolutely. That's why I love watching science stuff, and her channel is great for that, and learning something new every day. That's where that comes in. You get new videos about all kinds of different subjects from her, from all the other different science contributors that we check out.
Yeah, and for this one, this is her analysis on where we are at with AI at the moment, and she feels like if nothing does change and we continue at this pace, that we're going to hit some walls this year. And whether it's the technical and resource side, or whether it's on the processing side, the potential for walls here is everywhere.
Oh yeah, even just electricity. I mean, when it comes down to the amount of electricity in the world, that is one of the big walls. If you look at the the electricity use of AI data centers over time, it really did just get to a point where you look at that chart and you're like, we can't just keep doing that.
Yeah. The electricity one is why they're rolling out nuclear power plants again, like trying to compensate, because we need a lot more juice than we used to.
Oh, and we can make a lot safer power plants than we used to when it comes to nuclear plants.
Yeah, it's time to rethink that approach.
Even before we get into the fusion reactors that are not yet proven, but we are really getting close on some of that stuff too.
Yeah. So let's see what Sabina says here about where these potential walls could come from.
Yeah.
Before we try to de-age ourselves.
Exactly.
I'm generally optimistic about progress in artificial intelligence, but recently I've become somewhat concerned. Not for the reasons you might think. It seems that AI progress could hit a wall in 2026, not because the models suddenly stop getting smarter, but because we might not be able to turn the damn things on. Before we continue, a word from today's sponsor, GenSpark, an all-in-one AI workspace. They do AI chat, image generation, slides, sheets, video, but the feature I actually care about is their AI agent builder. No coding required. You write one prompt and it builds a standalone tool anyone can use. So I built a science hype detector. Every week there's a headline like, "Shocking dark energy findings challenge the standard model." Sounds dramatic. Then you read the paper and it's a 2.8 sigma hint that requires negative neutrino masses to work. I deal with this constantly. Now there's a tool for it. I fed it that Scientific American headline, it found the original DESI papers, noted the data alone is consistent with the standard model, called that it's below 5 sigma, and flagged the neutrino mass problem the article never mentioned. Hype score 6 out of 10. Links in the description. Sign up for free and you get free credits to start. And right now, GenSpark's offering unlimited AI chat and image generation for all paid users in 2026. Try it, break some headlines, build your own agent, and now back to the science news. Flashback to 2024 when computer scientist Leopold Aschenbrenner predicted the superintelligence explosion will come in 2027, though training would require 100 gigawatts or so per model. Just to give you a sense of scale, that's about twice Germany's entire electricity generation. According to Aschenbrenner, though, that could be made to work within a year or so by just quickly drilling for more gas. A truly fascinating example for how detached some Silicon Valley guys are from reality. He was right, though, in that the major problem for AI progress turns out to be energy supply. Not a lack of computer chips, not a lack of money, and not a lack of faith either, but plain old energy. The International Energy Agency's most recent report forecasts that the electricity use of data centers worldwide will roughly double from 2024 to 2030. This isn't quite as dramatic as Aschenbrenner's vision, but it means it's growing at a staggering 15% a year 4 times faster than overall electricity demand. And the problem isn't just where all this energy is supposed to come from, but also how it'll get to the data centers. The investment firm Morgan Stanley is already warning of the consequences. They are generally optimistic about major AI capabilities and write that long-term demand for compute and power is likely to justify current investment levels, but they also report that developers expect power constraints by 2027 to 2028 due to underinvestments in grids and potential supply chain disruption. The slowdown is already visible. In February, Axios reported that as many as half of the world's data center projects, which were supposed to go online in 2026, could face delays. Out of more than 16 gigawatts planned, only 5 gigawatts is actually under construction, with the rest pending in the announced stage, but no signs of building. What's the problem? The problem is that the US electric grid isn't catching up remotely quickly enough. According to data from Berkeley Labs, there are about 2 terawatts of power plant projects, renewable or not, waiting for a grid connection. The median wait is 5 years. Some areas like Northern Virginia hit 9 to 12 years. The issue is partly caused by transformer shortages, but mostly it's bad planning. Now, you can of course just build a power source right next to the data center, but that makes it logistically and operationally much more difficult, expensive, and also slower. If you listen closely, those working in the industry are already warning of the problem. Here is, for example, Elon Musk in a recording from January.
Yeah, I think the limiting factor for AI deployment is fundamentally electrical power.
It's right. It's energy.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing the rate of AI chip production increase exponentially, but the rate of electricity being brought online is
3%, 4% a year, max.
Yeah, it's clear that we're very soon, maybe even later this year, we'll be producing more chips than we can turn on, except for China.
The lack of grid connections is, of course, not just a problem for data centers. It's also going to slow down the energy transition, because if we're supposed to all stop heating with oil and gas and drive electric vehicles, then we're going to need a lot more electricity, hopefully from carbon neutral sources. And given that the electrical grid simply won't suffice in the present form, neither in North America nor in Europe, that's where things will grind to a halt. Elon Musk is entirely right, of course, that China doesn't seem to have the same problem. And seeing how competitive Americans are, it'll be interesting to see how they'll try to cope. The Trump administration seems to really like the idea of small modular nuclear reactors, and those seem like an obvious solution until you remember that all the mini reactors we've seen so far were like a decade behind schedule and $1 billion or so over budget. Small modular reactor currently means small expectations and modular delays. All this is going to create a very strong incentive for chip producers to reduce energy consumption for AI training. And once that actually makes any significant difference, it's likely that many of the data centers that are currently under construction will never be completed, or completed ones will never find customers. When that starts to filter into markets, this is when things will go to hell in the entire tech sector. In summary, the future may be bright, but we've got nowhere to plug it in. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Oh, does that mean we're going to need bigger plugs?
More power.
But you were
Always comes down.
You were right. It is the power is the biggest obstacle. And interesting what she mentions there, that if they do make things more efficient, which is a good way to approach things, if it takes this long to build and make power solutions and you got to wait 5 to 12 years in the case of the Carolinas, making more efficient equipment that uses less power is the complement or the alternate approach. Maybe by the time they do roll out all these power solutions, if there isn't a need for it, I mean, it sounds kind of silly because I'm sure we'll find a need for it. Like, if we have more power, we'll use more power one way or another. But
Well, imagine rationing the AI use for the important questions. Like, let's answer the important problems first, because once we have abundant power and abundant clean water and abundant food for everybody, we can kind of figure everything else out as it comes, right? So like, let's focus on like some of the important problems. Like, let's get past scarcity, and then all of a sudden everything else becomes possible. So like, that's one of those things where it's a big goal and there's a lot of things in the way, and it's no simple answers. But the idea is that by prioritizing what we're using AI for, because how much of the AI that we're currently using is making videos of cats playing guitar as a question.
Like,
Let's ask important questions from AI instead.
it's possible that if they were to just kind of lock down AI a little bit and say, okay, no more cat videos, we kind of need it to focus on other things. They
had their
could.
moment. The videos had their moment for sure, right? And like, everybody who hasn't seen them yet, it's still amazing every time. But like the point where you can't trust your eyes at all. Like, I mean, every thumbnail I see on YouTube now is completely AI generated.
Yeah.
There's it's like those two were never in a movie together, and this and that, whatever. Like, you're just like looking at different things, and it's like, everything is AI generated at this point. So you're like, you can't trust your eyes with all of it. So it's important to ask the right questions of the AI, I think.
Yeah. The fact that you can't trust your eyes anymore is one of the big questions about, do we really want to go into a world where you can't tell what's real and not anymore? I don't know if that's going to be a good future for us.
Well, one of the things that we talk about is, if you imagine a post-scarcity environment where we take care of the fact that, it's no longer about having to find food and having to find water and having to find shelter. Like, that's all taken care of already in some way. Like, right, we don't have to get specific about how everybody is taken care of, but everybody is taken care of at this point in this post-scarcity.
The Star Trek approach.
Exactly. Like, that's where we are, post-scarcity, right? We have enough for everybody. Then all of a sudden everything comes down to, what do we want to do as a society? Because like, if AI and robots are doing everybody's job, who's making the money or who's doing whatever? Like, what are people doing all day? And that's where, pursuing interests, where it comes down to creativity, right? Like, that's really where a lot of it comes down to. Like, some people could be completely fine. Like, I'm one of the people, you could lock me in a room for a decade and I could just sit there and entertain myself playing guitar or whatever. Like, there's a million things that I could do to entertain myself, but not everyone is like that, right? Like, a lot of people, they would go nuts within a day of not being able to talk to someone or not being able to do something specific or whatever. So it all depends on being flexible, being available, being willing to really focus and learn things that are important for the future of the way the world is going, and not to put too many eggs in one basket either, because it's it's very easy to like go down one rabbit hole and like follow one line of thinking and just really narrow focus on that. But it's important to see what's going on all around and then decide what is the best course of action.
Well, and one of the ironies of, if we could solve all of that and have a future where we focus more on our creative interests and things like that, that would actually help in some of this anti-aging approach and like that proactive preventive approach. Because if you live a happy life and you're more focused on your health and you are like trying to like work 10 hours every day, you might actually live longer in the long run.
One of the things that I would look at is they've done studies on what they call super agers or green zones, places where people live, to be 100 years old more than in other places in the world. Like certain places.
Apparently the water in China will get a woman to 110 if you live in the right place.
Same thing where certain spots in, I think in Japan, for example, there are places in the Mediterranean. There's certain very specific spots where, there are an unusually high number of people who live past 100, and they, studying why is important, because it has something, it could have something to do with the location in terms of, whatever, minerals in the water or, whatever.
Or the culture and the way that they actually live.
Low stress, that's a big
one.
Low stress is a big one. And, staying active is a big one, keeping your body healthy, whether it's Tai Chi or just, yoga, like any kind of mobility kind of stuff to keep yourself from just kind of, sitting in the chair and getting less and less able to get out of the chair. It's important to keep yourself, active, at least enough to be able to move yourself around comfortably and easily.
Yeah. And on the power obstacles here, I mean, we've gone down, power production and challenges in other episodes. And, it's not always about the power production challenge. It's about our battery and storage challenge because we
yeah.
could easily make more power. We just don't know how to get it out there and use it fast enough to not waste it. Generating it and not using it is a waste.
Yeah. And we have looked at a few different things. Like there are some interesting ones, thermal storage from a sand battery, for example. We've looked at gravity storage where they, lift concrete blocks and lower them down slowly as an energy source as it goes down. You can use compressed air in an old propane tank, for example, is the kind of thing that can be used as a power source because compressed air can spin a turbine and generate electricity. I mean, there are things that you can do with a lot of different things to try to balance these things out. But it's a question of what makes sense and what responds at the right speed. And that's really what it comes down to, because so many of the current things that are on grid storage are just not responsive enough to be able to respond to a demand curve. And that's why they'll have peaker plants that they can turn on and turn off when they need to. When they do figure out modular reactors to the point where they can take a modular reactor and just bring it to a shut down coal plant, for example, and install it right there because all of the energy infrastructure is already there. Like all the lines are already coming in and it's already, a place where massive energy generation was being done and being sent out. So there's already all the transmission set up there. They can drop in something, whether it's a geothermal or whether it's a small modular reactor, things like that. There's a lot of different options of things that we will have coming in the next few years that they'll be able to drop into positions like that. And then it's just a matter of making sure the infrastructure can all withstand it. And again, the storage is the big one, whether it's those big Tesla battery packs that they were testing in Australia, where that helps with grid balancing. And that's where batteries are one of the big ones because they're able to give you that instantaneous power jump when you need it.
Yeah, the modular approach was a really interesting solution choice and a very promising one. That is a good approach. I feel like all these different technologies, they're kind of instigating the innovations in the other ones. So this need for power with AI is leading to some advancements in battery approach because the battery is a big one in this equation that we keep going back to on Tech Nights.
Don't forget though that when we're talking now about a limitation on electricity, just overall human electricity generation, where before when we were talking about limitations on electric cars, like one of the things stopping 100% adoption is there's not enough lithium available to make that many batteries, to make that many cars that fast. So we couldn't do it if we wanted to, right? But same idea here where if we wanted to really go forward with AI, we just don't have the generation capacity online. And part of that does come down to the storage, part of it does come down to the regulations, like they were saying 5 years, 12 years to get something to come online. I mean, that's
it may lead to the inevitable situation you're talking about where they have to consider what are we gonna use it for. And I do like those cat videos, but if I have to choose like where AI is going to be more the medical field, for me, I think that's where the most interesting of AI use can be.
And energy generation. I mean, that's another one where, the more we focus, the AI on fixing the problems of scarcity when it comes to clean water, when it comes to energy generation, and, when it comes to food production, those are things that I think are, really important. And, as well, the capacity to generate more AI, capacity is important.
Yeah. I like the idea if they could do heart surgery on me and it helps, awesome. If it has to, if it's driving my car, okay, cool. But
nice to have, but not a requirement.
Surgery stuff first, and then worry about driving the car.
Exactly.
But Sabina, great food for thought there. I do think this power problem might not get solved in 2026, but some of the things that she suggested where they're gonna reduce like how much demand it has might make this not as big of an issue this year. Then it might not mean the end of AI. It might just mean a slow pause.
Now, one that Tony and I looked at a different time was the super deep drilling for geothermal, because using not standard drill bits to drill down, because once you get to a certain depth, drilling further is very difficult because it's so hot that you're actually melting drill bits and you're having difficulty, and pulling just enormous amounts of pipe up and down, all the time to keep replacing drill bits and all that. with the wave generation. There was the one that uses basically a cyclotron wave generation
Was
to
that
melt the rock.
that was the plasma one?
Yeah,
Plasma.
it basically it vaporizes the rock. So it's basically and it doesn't have to be right next to it to do it. So you can just keep sending this thing down further and further. You're just vaporizing the rock and getting it out of there. With those, you could, it fixes the one major hurdle to putting geothermal just about anywhere, right? Normally with geothermal, you have to be somewhere good for it, where there's, hot springs in certain areas, whether it's, Yellowstone or Iceland or whatever. There's certain spots that are just great for geothermal. But if you're not in one of those spots, you're kind of screwed, right? It's like, oh, you can't really do it there. But now you could do those super deep drilling geothermal almost anywhere. And if that becomes the case, then all of a sudden, anywhere that there are those shutdown plants, you can put something in place very quickly. So that's the kind of thing where we could jump ahead by doing something like that. That's not really a jump ahead in technology, other than the actual use of the waveform for the drilling. But everything else is off the shelf stuff that you can just get going tomorrow, that kind of thing.
Again, one technology kind of pushing another innovation.
Right.
Yep. And now for our second video, before we get into the anti-aging, the big part of it, I was kind of curious as to like why we age, how we age, what is going on when we do age. And this got my interest perked with the idea that life is speeding up as you get older, and you age quicker as it's almost like a catch-22. Like we're trying to keep up with our young life as we get older, and ironically we're in some cases physically and mentally aging faster.
To me, a lot comes down to taking the time to stop and smell the roses is the important part, because then, even if it feels like things are going by very fast, you're taking the time to actually, sit back and enjoy a little bit here and there. It's important.
And it's all about relaxing. And with this channel, at Storian009, welcome to Sleeping Historian, the channel where history meets relaxation. So I like this idea. And
Relaxation.
I do love my history channels as well. So cool that we've got this one for this topic. But when we go back in time, I like a history channel. So I'll be back for other nights.
Absolutely.
But for this one, I really am curious as to when and why we start to age faster. And in this case, I see 7, which kind of curious because I always felt like that's when I started actually growing up quicker. Before 7, man, that first 7 years took forever.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to get a little bit older watching this one.
Just a little.
Think back to when you were 7 years old. Do you remember how long it took for your birthday to arrive? Or how agonizing the wait for summer vacation felt? 2 months away from school felt like an absolute eternity. You lived entire lifetimes between June and August. You built forts, you learned to ride a bike, you explored new neighborhoods, and by the time September arrived, you felt like a completely different person. When you are a child, time is an ocean. Now, think about your life today. You celebrate New Year's Eve, you blink, and suddenly you are complaining about how early the stores are putting up Halloween decorations. You blink again, and it's Thanksgiving. Entire years seem to evaporate into thin air, leaving almost no trace behind. It's a universal, terrifying human experience. The older you get, the faster time seems to fly. You might be feeling a sudden panic, a quiet, heavy existential dread that your life is slipping through your fingers and you are running out of time. You wonder, is the universe actually spinning faster? No, the universe is ticking at the exact same speed it always has. But your brain is playing a massive biological trick on you. Before we open up the human mind to discover exactly why your perception of time is completely broken and reveal the secret neurological protocol to slow your life back down, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell. Join our lab of thinkers, because today we are going to teach you how to become a time traveler. To understand why life feels like it's accelerating, we first have to look at the cold, hard mathematics of human memory. In 1877, a philosopher named Paul Janet introduced a concept that we now call the proportional theory. When you are a 5-year-old child, one single year represents exactly 20% of your entire existence on Earth. That year contains 20% of all the memories, all the pain, all the joy, and all the experiences you have ever known. Proportionally, it is a massive, incredibly heavy chunk of your life, but when you turn 50 years old, 1 year represents a mere 2% of your life. Mathematically, a year to a 50-year-old feels exactly like 36 days feels to a 5-year-old. Because you measure the passage of time relative to the total time you have already lived, humans do not experience time linearly. We experience time logarithmically. This leads to a deeply unsettling mathematical truth. If you perceive time logarithmically, the halfway point of your perceived life, the point where you feel like you have lived exactly half of all the time you will ever experience, is not age 40. Depending on how you calculate memory formation, the subjective halfway point of your life is somewhere between the ages of 7 and 10. Let that sink in. By the time you were 10 years old, you had likely already experienced half of your subjective perception of time, but don't panic just yet. Math is only half the story. The real reason your adult years are flashing before your eyes has nothing to do with fractions, and everything to do with how your brain encodes video data. Neuroscientists have discovered that the human brain does not measure time like a clock. A clock ticks steadily, 1 second per second. Your brain measures the passage of time by the density of new memories it creates. Think of your brain as a video camera. When you are a child, the world is incredibly new. You are learning to walk, you are tasting sour food for the first time, you are hearing new words, experiencing new textures. Because the environment is full of unfamiliar data, your brain goes into hyper-focus. It records life at 120 frames per second. When you look back at your childhood, that high-density data takes a long time for your brain to review, creating the illusion that those years lasted forever. But as you get older, the world loses its novelty. You wake up at the same time. You drive the exact same route to work. You sit at the exact same desk, talk to the same coworkers, and watch the exact same shows on Netflix. When your brain encounters highly familiar information, it wants to save energy, so it switches into autopilot mode. It relies on a process called synaptic pruning. Why record the drive to work for the 500th time? The brain compresses the data, it stops recording at 120 frames per second and drops down to maybe 5 frames per second. This brings us to a fascinating psychological phenomenon known as the holiday paradox. Have you ever gone on a week-long vacation to a completely new country? During the trip, time seems to fly by because you are having fun. But when you get home and look back on it, it feels like you were gone for a month. Why? Because your brain was suddenly forced off autopilot. It had to navigate new streets, process new languages, and taste new foods. It recorded massive amounts of dense memory data. But your daily routine? Because you aren't creating new, distinct memories, your brain has nothing to anchor the timeline to. It simply groups the last 5 years of identical days into one single, blurry folder. Routine is the enemy of time. When you live on autopilot, your brain literally hits the fast forwards button on your existence. And in the 21st century, we have invented the ultimate time accelerator, the most dangerous weapon against your lifespan, the infinite scroll. When you sit on the couch and scroll through TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube Shorts for 3 hours, you enter what psychologists call a time void. Your brain is receiving massive hits of cheap dopamine, which keeps your attention hooked in the present moment. But because the physical environment around you is completely static, you're just sitting on a couch staring at a glowing rectangle, your brain encodes absolutely zero episodic memories. You experience the stimulation, but you keep none of the data. This is why you can scroll for 3 hours, and when you finally put the phone down, it feels like only 5 minutes have passed. Yet you cannot recall a single meaningful thing you just watched. You are literally deleting hours of your life from your own hard drive. If you spend 4 hours a day on your phone, you are actively erasing over 60 full days from your perceived year. So, you are trapped in a biological fast forward. The years are slipping away. How do you stop it? You cannot change the mathematics of aging, but you can hack the neuroscience of memory. If routine and digital numbness speed up time, then novelty and presence slow it down. Here is your neurological protocol to slow down your life. Step 1. The power of firsts. You don't need to quit your job and move to the Himalayas to experience novelty. You just need to break your brain's autopilot. Drive a different route to work. Brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand. Go to a restaurant you've never been to and order something you can't pronounce. By forcing your brain to process unfamiliar stimuli, you force the camera to turn back on. You start recording at 120 frames per second again. Your weeks will instantly start feeling longer. Step 2. Enter the stretch zone. Time slows down when we are learning. When you are a beginner at something, your brain is flooded with new neural connections, a state called neuroplasticity. Learn a new language, pick up a musical instrument, take a martial arts class. The steeper the learning curve, the thicker the memory encoding, and the longer the year will feel in retrospect. Do not let your brain get comfortable. Step 3. Spatial anchoring. The brain heavily ties memory to physical locations. If you work from home, eat at home, and relax at home, your brain blends the entire year into one room. You must change your physical environment. Go for a walk without your phone. When you drink your morning coffee, don't look at a screen. Actually taste the bitterness. Feel the warmth of the mug. Notice the temperature of the air. Force your brain to take a high-definition photograph of the present moment. Time is the ultimate equalizer. It is the only currency you can never earn back, no matter how rich or powerful you become. If you continue to live exactly the way you did yesterday, tomorrow will disappear. Next year will vanish. And one day, you will look in the mirror and wonder where the decades went. But time is not a relentless enemy. It is a blank canvas. And your memories are the paint. Don't let your life become a compressed, blurry file folder on a dusty hard drive. Seek out the uncomfortable. Seek out the new. Put down the screen and make your brain work to process the beauty and chaos of the real world. You cannot stop the sand from falling, but you can absolutely choose how deeply you feel each grain. If you want to master the psychology of your own life, hit that like button, subscribe to the lab, and share this video with someone who feels like time is moving too fast. Break your routine today. See you in the next video.
Oh, food for thought. Food for thought.
Novelty. That's the key.
Well, going back to what you were saying about like, a potential future where we do focus more on our interests and not have to solve the world's problems all the time. If that was the case, we might not feel this like aging process where we get caught in a redundancy that all of a sudden every day's the same. And I think the point there was that if things continue to stay interesting and sometimes a little unique, change your location, challenge your brain to do things differently on a daily basis, and you won't feel like you're aging as rapidly. Rusty deals with the elderly, and this is something we've talked about on like how to keep them engaged, keep them feeling young, because feeling young is half the battle.
Absolutely. And novelty is part of it. And again, music is huge with that because just music is such a strong mnemonic device. Somebody hearing their favorite song, like if somebody loved a Frank Sinatra song and they haven't heard it in 30 years, and all of a sudden you play the song from them, that can bring back all kinds of memories that they might not have had any other connection to, just because something very strong anchors when it comes to memories with when it comes to music, when it comes to sights and smells and just different aspects, but especially with smells and with music and sounds.
Yeah. Last Monday, me, Ange, and Coco got on Zoom with Russ over at his work, and for 2 hours we played him some songs. We got him to sing along, and it was very productive. It
Nice.
worked really good to get them engaged. Hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more of that.
Nice. I like it.
That is some good information, and again, food for thought. Like, I'm looking through these videos, and there's a couple of them why you can't trust your own past as you get older, and do you? And memory, and how we do retain memory, and how sometimes it actually changes in our heads. That's something that I'm fascinated with.
I mean, I have
at Story in '09 for this kind of food.
Yep. I have heard people tell the same story. Like if you have a close friend of yours and you're meeting new people over time, and you hear them tell the same story over time, sometimes you'll hear slight changes in stories over time. And some of that is what you're talking about there, where it's not necessarily editing what it was before, but it's like each time you tell the story, there's something that you realize you could edit and change and make a little bit different and embellish, make it sound a little bit better or whatever. And all of a sudden, like by the time it's told the third, fourth time, all of a a sudden, instead of 3 things, all of a sudden it's 9 things or whatever.
Yeah.
It just gets blown out of proportion, depending on the person, of course.
Yeah. And how they get into that story. Like if the conversation leads into it, and sometimes the relevancy it changes based on how you went into the story.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now we're going to get into the reverse aging discussion. And in the case of reverse aging, it's not like the preventive aging, which we're also going to talk about. But the idea here is to actually take old cells and make them young again. This is science. This is technology, like really trying something ambitious.
And that's the thing, is sometimes we've talked before about the difference between the old cells and young cells being the telomere length at the ends of the chromosomes. And the question is if it gets into that, or whether it's more about trying to get back to, as you were mentioning before, about stem cells and trying to get back to a state where they can become pluripotent and be able to become other types of cells, or if we're just talking about getting back to the earlier state of this particular cell.
Yeah, and even more interesting, how they're going to utilize AI to accomplish these things, or to complement what the science they're trying to use here and the technology they're trying to use there, and how it's all going to connect. So at Tech-Nomics is going to show us an approach here on all of this, and ask the big question we're asking tonight: is reverse aging possible through AI? Longevity technology. That word, longevity, as a technology.
Right.
We're in the future now.
The concept of longevity suggests a future where aging is no longer an inevitable decline, but something that can be managed, slowed, or even reversed. We've seen this idea in many Hollywood movies, but could it really become a reality?
See, you're already healing faster. You're gonna do great.
So you good guys or bad guys?
Depends on the century.
So we really never die.
Just because we keep living doesn't mean we stop hurting.
Can AI help us live forever? Popular futurist Ray Kurzweil proclaims that such an unimaginable time is as close as 2030.
At the end of this decade, as we go into the 2030s, we're going to achieve a new milestone. It's called longevity escape velocity.
Yeah, I think that artificial intelligence will give us the key to genetic immortality.
Immortality is possible. Actually, it already exists.
Can AI help us achieve longevity technology? The dream of being immortal is as old as humanity itself. From the 4,000-year-old epic of Gilgamesh to today's advancements in artificial intelligence, the more impossible it seems, the harder we strive to make it a reality. Scientists have already conducted experiments where they successfully reversed the age of living cells. For example, Shinya Yamanaka, a Japanese researcher, won the Nobel Prize in 2012 for his discovery of 4 Yamanaka genes. According to him, by changing 4 genes, you can make older cells young again. However, the biggest technology that everyone is placing their hopes on is artificial intelligence.
So I think there's going to be remarkable breakthroughs that we haven't even dreamed about because of the role and the tools that AI give us.
We want to live as long as possible, maybe 1,000 years. Now, for the first time, we have a scientific, technological possibility.
Is longevity technology possible in the next 5 years through AI?
It's going to get faster and faster. And as we get to the early 2030s, let's say between 2029 and 2035, depending on how diligent you are, you're going to get back a full year. So you lose a year, you get back a year.
You might call him a crazy guy, but here is what Bill Gates had to say about him. The best person I know at predicting the future of artificial intelligence. In 1990, Kurzweil accurately predicted that AI would beat the best human player at chess before the turn of the millennium. Then in 1999, he forecast that by 2029, computers would match human intelligence in every domain. At the time, leading researchers like Geoffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio thought it would take much longer, but it turns out Ray was right when no one was ready to believe him. Could something like this happen now too? Experts like Dr. Pinchas Cohen say, death isn't optional. It's written into our genes. He also claims there's absolutely no evidence that it's possible. They say that even if a human becomes immortal hypothetically, there is a list of philosophical and existential questions that remain unanswered. In reality, we aren't sure about anything, and the real question isn't about when this will happen, but how it will happen. Which type of immortality would you like? Number 1. Digital immortality. According to some extropian futurists like Moravec and Kurzweil, due to exponential progress in computer technology, it will someday be possible to upload human consciousness onto a computer system, where it can exist forever. Predictions suggest such technology could emerge by 2045. Number 2. Cyborg immortality. This form merges human biology with technology, like replacing body parts with mechanical components. Remember the Marvel hero Bucky Barnes? Here are some technologies that contribute to this vision. Neuralink, founded by none other than Elon Musk, develops brain-computer interfaces. It enables direct communication between the brain and the computer through a small chip.
We put a chip in your brain to control your mind. Paraplegics, tetraplegics, and people who have just, for whatever reason, no longer have a connection between, or have a limited connection between their brain and their body. Mm-hmm. And then the second application would be restoration of eyesight. So if somebody's gone completely blind, maybe even has lost the optic nerve.
Innovations in 3D printing and tissue engineering are creating synthetic organs. Such organs can replace the biological ones in case they are damaged. Nanotechnology and robotics will give birth to age-reversing nanobots. These tiny nanobots will constantly keep fixing damaged tissues within our bodies that start to deteriorate as we age.
So nanobots is the way you achieve high bandwidth. How much intelligence would those nanobots have?
Yeah, they don't need a lot, just enough to basically establish a communication channel to one nanobot. So
it's primarily about communication.
Yeah.
Between external computing devices and our biological thinking machine.
Number 3, biological immortality. This refers to an organism's ability to avoid aging and maintain cellular function indefinitely. David Sinclair, a leading longevity expert, has developed an aging clock that can potentially reverse cellular aging.
And that's not just for somebody who's born today who will live definitely into the 22nd century, where the technologies that they'll have, we can barely even imagine. Even 10 years from now, we can barely imagine. But those of us who were born in the 1960s, like I was, 1970s, 80s, and even those who are now just in their 20s, will benefit from this real major advance that I'm going to tell you about.
Jeff Bezos has invested heavily in Altos Labs, which are focused on different processes that help in age reversing. Peter Thiel has also funded Unity Biotechnology and the Methuselah Foundation. Both of these companies are aimed at extending healthy lifespan and combating aging. More technologies that can potentially help us live forever or for a long, long time include genetic engineering, regenerative medicine, and cryonics. What if you missed it? Cryonics is a fascinating technology, especially for those who aren't sure if any technology will save them within their lifetimes. It involves preserving the bodies of deceased individuals at very low temperatures, with the hope that future advancements may allow for their revival. Now it might sound absurd, but prominent figures like Ray Kurzweil himself, Peter Thiel, and many others have already signed up for cryopreservation with different companies. What happens next? One thing is sure, there will certainly be an increase in the average lifespan and health span of human beings. It is widely believed that the first person to live forever has probably already been born.
someone who's 50 today, staying in good health through 70, is likely to intercept all the breakthroughs that will give them an additional 30 years at a minimum.
Isn't that incredible?
But during that additional 30 years, we then have all these other breakthroughs coming.
According to Jose Cordero, humanity only exists today because chimpanzees evolved into something more over the eons, and so we shouldn't be frightened of taking the next step. So, what's your perspective on this? Which of these potential methods of immortality do you think stands the greatest chance of becoming a reality?
Biological.
More food for thought.
I say biological. That's my hope, and I think that's what this research we're talking about is really getting into. But the healthy lifespan is, again, the focus. It's not about more years, on a ventilator. It's about more years of being, healthy and able to combat all of these things. And again, that last point they were making about, people who are in their 50s now, making it that 15 years, and what's coming in those 15 years should enable them to make it those next 30. And what's coming in those next 30 is beyond, what we can imagine at this point because of the speed at which these things are coming at us.
Interesting that they brought in the cryology, because again, what I mentioned before, the idea that if you can't live long enough to utilize these solutions that, according to Ray, 2029, like that's pretty
right around the
close.
corner.
And if there's like one who I would actually consider his predictions, they made a good point there. He has been on the forefront of accuracy when it comes to technology about things that almost everybody else got wrong. So you can't ignore that track record. I would love to be able to sit down and talk to him about like these different approaches here.
Absolutely. And again, it's just such a crazy time that, just looking at these next, 4 years, what he's talking about now, less than 4 years from now, we're in 2030. And all of a sudden, that's where, even going back 6 years, what were people talking about in 2020 as being, what's going to be like in 2030? And, they couldn't have imagined half of the stuff that we're talking about now with AI, and we're already there and pushing for what's next.
Yeah, I finally got my flying car a couple of weeks ago, but I can't buy it yet.
Well, it's here though.
and of all these different approaches, I feel that they'll develop the ability to possibly take conscience and digitize it and put it into androids and things like that before they figure out how to reverse age and actually solve the physical challenge with the biology side. I think the innovations on downloading ourselves might outpace the physical obstacles we have to deal with.
See, I think it's the other way. I think it's the physical aging aspect. I think we're much closer to being able to do that than to deciphering and being able to download and meaningfully use anything from a brain. But also, there are a lot of things in both. When you mentioned cryogenics before, though, also the main issue they always had is anytime you try to freeze an actual cell, you have the problem where water just turns to ice and bursts through. So it's about the animals that can hibernate successfully, and there are animals that can freeze and come back successfully. So that's where mimicking biology, mimicking what you find in nature, like if it's a frog or whatever it is, some kinds of creatures can literally be frozen solid and come back.
Iguanas
and figuring
look
out what
like
it
they're
is,
dead.
figuring out what it is in their biology that allows them to do that is what is going to help us with figuring out cryogenic preservation for us. But again, we still don't know if that means that if you can wake up a mind after that, that's a total other question.
Yeah. And Coin Drop brought up a good point. Like you might be able to make the body look old, but you might still be dealing with a mind hasn't recovering there, or getting the mind to actually stay young is way bigger of a challenge than replacing an organ.
And as a matter of fact, the same the same process though. Like if you watch that entire interview with Sinclair, part of it was talking about some things like Alzheimer's and other types of neurodegenerative diseases where they've seen, promising results with some of that too. Again, it's way too early to say that, this is a solution for that, but it is something that points in the direction of this could be a potential therapeutic for that going down the road too.
Yeah. And when it comes to like downloading yourself into like say a new consciousness, I think for the short term, it's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be more like everything you ever did on Facebook and everywhere else is all collected, and we simulate you through AI.
Yeah.
And technically, you're not dead. You are now a simulation of yourself. Eventually, if they can figure out what the hell the brain actually is and they can convert it into data, then maybe someday you will be able to actually download yourself. But till then, what you do and how it gets stored and analyzed with AI might actually be you in the future.
Yeah. And as you're talking, that whole algorithm, let's say, that whole thing that represents everything that was you, like they know what you would click on, what you would scroll past, all of that. Think about how many people are actually currently even ghosts in the machine, where if they had automated routines written on their computers that were still running after, they passed and their machine is still on, like that's somebody who's not there anymore, but it's still acting as though they are. So in some way they are continuing on after their death.
I could see that becoming kind of like, how some people actually pay for a service to deal with like when I die and this is what I want to make sure and how to deal with my online accounts. If you've got a lot to manage, you've got a lot to set up in the event that something happens to you. I could see a like kind of service in the future where it's like I want my essence and everything I did to be turned into a AI version of me. Some people might actually pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be, something that reminds the internet of them because it acts as they would have. So it is, an echo of them, let's say.
Yeah, a weird way to live forever. And you could actually start doing that now. Like this shit we got to wait for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certain people, like if people who are famous enough on YouTube, those videos are never going to die, right? Like there's going to be a Davey 504 video, 1,000 years from now, right? I mean, certain things, you're going to still see. So, in a way, like, he'll still be there.
If anybody's going to
away.
live 1,000 years, Davey would be one of them.
Yeah,
right. And Stevie.
yeah, sure.
So at tech-nomics, awesome food for thought there. I love how it broke up the different possibilities here. It's not just one thing we're talking about here. There's multiple ways to approach this, and some of them are ready for prime time.
Exactly.
And one that is currently being tested in real world by a real person. This is the one that I was telling you about earlier. Brian Johnson, he gets mentioned in this longevity research and talk all over the place, and partly because he took the initiative. He's not waiting for something to come along. He's trying to find something and an approach, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, he sold off his big company and took that and said, I'm going to build myself a $2 million a year diet and regimen and research to anti-age. And that's really what he's going for. He's going for both preventive and anti-aging. Half of what he's doing is like, I'm going to try to avoid getting old. And the other half is, whatever is getting old, how can we get it back to young?
Now, I will say that with when it comes to things like this, in some cases, some people worry that people are taking things that are not, not recommended or not, not passed, not certified by the FDA or whatever. So there are certain concerns about things like that. And when it comes to experimenting on yourself, of course, you're not putting anybody else in harm's way. So people would say, oh, well, it's only something that I'm taking. I'm not, endangering anybody else. But when it comes to other people then watching, your results and then trying to reproduce them themselves, other people could end up taking things. And again, we're not endorsing anything specific.
Yeah,
or anything like that, but
I'm not
it's
saying
important.
go with this diet or go with that one. I'm not a doctor. See YouTube? That's my disclaimer. I'm
Yep, but
not a
just
doctor.
as a disclaimer before even getting into that, because there are people who are very much on that side where they are against the whole experimenting and taking things that are not approved. But again, we haven't even looked at any of it yet, so I'm not making a foregone conclusion about any of it. I'm a very open-minded guy when it comes to all this stuff.
You're not familiar with his story either, right? Like I wasn't familiar with it till you put me down this rabbit hole. And just from the description, he's the world's most measured human. And that's not bullshit. He's willing to test it and do it himself and be the guinea pig. They're happy to take the results and say, like, okay, maybe there is something here. And some of the things he tests, I mean, you look on some of these, he does talk about trying certain things, certain mushrooms and other medicinals where he realized like this didn't actually help me de-age, it actually aged me, which I'm definitely going to go check that one afterwards. As I was going through these, like some of these results, they are interesting to know. Like this is what happens to you when you're taking these things.
And a lot of times it's important to know that everybody's chemistry responds to different things differently. So that's where, again, a one-person study is anecdotal, but there is important data that you can gather from that. Again, if he found things that made him age, those are things that would be good to test to see if that happens for other people as well, because other people might have the opposite reaction. It all depends on the individual chemistry.
And even more interesting, because they're the first woman to go on this regimen. They just started doing that. And some were saying like a woman, this regimen and these things you're doing may not have the same effect on a female that it does on a male. So they are like starting to get like control subject experiment control, like this is starting to go into that phase. And the video I did choose, it's not telling his story as much as it's giving his impression on AI. And if you do go check out his story, he's utilizing AI to give him anti-aging advice. So he's doing what scares me sometimes when I see people with the AI and they just say, oh my God, this thing will tell me everything I should do about whatever. And all of a sudden, who's in charge there of decision making? And
even something as simple as a workout routine, like, oh, I asked AI the best way to build whatever muscles and it told me to do this. And so they did that and they injured themselves. And it's like, well, there's a gap there. It's like there's a way to do it and then there's a way to do it safely. And, you make sure you do things safely.
Yeah. So we're not encouraging or discouraging here. We're observing.
And we like to notice, changes in the data, and we like to notice, when they find things that are useful to know when it comes to aging, for sure. The mechanisms involved, especially.
When it comes to our topic tonight, I couldn't ignore this story. It's the big one in this topic.
You're gonna die of old age.
Which is fine.
That's not good. You wanna die? You don't have to, just a disease. We can cure it.
So maybe Brian Johnson's right when he says don't die.
Don't die ever.
But he's saying like don't die before we get to the technology.
Right, longevity escape velocity. You wanna live long enough to live forever. It's one breakthrough away.
London Tech Week. We're live with guests from over 130 countries around the world.
We all intuitively know that AI is happening fast, so our ability to predict the future is becoming very, very, very hard. We just can't see anymore. The one thing I do know is I don't want to die. I think the world is beginning to digest AI, and this is a big moment, bigger than we can imagine.
I think we could cure most diseases within the next decade if AI drug design works. And then there could be personalized medicines where it minimizes the side effects on the individual because it's mapped to the person's individual illness and metabolism and so on.
We talk about the progress of our smartphones and AI models, but we don't talk a lot about human improvement. There's this open question of what does it mean to evolve as a human? And not only how is AI positive, but how it makes us humans better.
I think somewhere in our genome we have this rejuvenation loop, and it's set to basically give us at most 120. I think we can reset it to something bigger.
AI is probably going to accelerate that.
That's one very important application area, yes, absolutely.
What if everybody has an assistant, and the assistant is 140 IQ, is infinitely patient, knows everything about you, and is pulling for you in every possible way? Anytime you find anything confusing or want to learn anything or have trouble understanding something or want to figure out what to do in a situation, it will help you do it.
When you acquire all this data about your body, no human can parse through the data and say, I know what's going on. And so AI plays this really essential role. It powers everything we've built for the past few years. I hired a team of 30 medical professionals, and we said we really don't want to listen to health gurus. We want to look at the scientific evidence. And so we crawled through all the evidence and we said, what has the very best evidence for the kinds of foods you eat, the exercise you do, sleep protocols. And then we built this protocol based upon all the evidence, and then we measured every single thing we could about my body. As tuned as I am in everyday schedules of getting fantastic sleep and eating well and exercising, you just feel phenomenal. And a deviation from that is pretty devastating, because otherwise it really does leave a shell of myself.
Hey.
Hey. I was going to try and take a nap, but that's not going to happen, is it?
Radio thing is at 1, so you'll have 15 minutes when we get to the hotel. So yeah, you're not gonna have time.
I talk a lot about the virtues of good sleep, and I also talk about the costs of bad sleep, but to experience them is very different. Hummus avocado with carrots. And a Coca-Cola. Over the past couple days, we have had such a demanding schedule. We have all these really important events. I'm pushing myself to my very limits when I do these things, and I'm feeling tired.
Brian, hello, it's Tom Swarbrick here.
Hey Tom, nice to see you.
And you, sir. Thank you very much indeed for doing this. Really appreciate your time.
Of course. It definitely wears you down, but I think in those moments, I think about those that are currently in the same position I was before.
Have you ever felt burned out at work? Well, it turns out the World Health Organization will now officially recognize that as a legitimate medical condition.
What you're really talking about is chronic stress. It increases the risk of heart disease, of high blood pressure, of stroke, of cancer, and chronic stress is a killer.
I had subscribed to this idea that you work so hard in life that you walk yourself up into the cliff of death. And so when I'm going to people, I'm trying to say to them, you're playing a game you didn't create. This game is killing you. So don't play that game. Be aware there's a new game here, and here's how you play it.
Hands up, hands up, hands up, stretch out. All right, everybody warmed up? Why don't we go for a walk for 5 minutes and let's hang out together? Yeah? How about we go this way?
When you do a protocol, you want to start at some moderate level and then work your way up. And the key for doing that is just take your first step. And what people don't realize is you string together those moments and you actually realize you don't want to die. Knowing that I needed to be on my A game, I went to bed early and I did my routine. I read a book. The next morning I woke up and then I worked out. My heart rate variability is climbing up about 7% every day. So I had 2 days in a row I didn't work out and my body was squawking. So I finally got myself back into a good place. I now have this event that I'm going to, 100 to 150 people in the London tech community. So I really needed to be on my A game to make the best possible impression. When I arrived, the entire house was so jam-packed, you couldn't even walk through. My first thought was, this is very dangerous because everyone here is suffering from hearing loss, so we bought a bunch of earplugs. And then the second thought was, everyone here needs to immediately have earplugs in.
Yeah, put these in. love your suffering hearing loss.
Oh, thank you. That's pretty sweet.
Hey, how you doing, friend?
Good, thanks. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, here, put these in. Oh, thanks.
Oh, amazing.
Nice to meet you.
I think they were confused. I think they were like, okay, thank you, I guess. I don't think people really understood what was happening.
You're suffering hearing loss.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So when I came in tonight, I handed many of you earplugs because when the decibel level is over 80, you're losing your hearing. I know this because I've lost hearing in my ear. You cannot get hearing back in this moment. You lose your ability to experience the world. That is a form of die, and you can measure it. So in doing that, I've tried to become humanity's first don't die prototype. Okay, and that means replace my body with planet Earth and do the exact same scientific experiment. If you measure Earth with billions of data points, you say, where are we doing well for the biosphere to support human activity, and where are we doing poorly? And you implement interventions again and again, so the world has good biomarkers. AI plays this really essential role. I mean, it can process billions or trillions of data points and help us start doing the hard work of how do you stop the death process on planet Earth. And so we need to take care of ourselves, we need to take care of each other, and we need to take care of our planet, our home.
The observation of intelligence in human hands is that intelligence quite literally makes everything better. You've got glasses, you've got a wristwatch, a personal computer. Viewed through that lens, AI is the latest in a long series of basically augmentation methods.
I wonder if life and everything would be less special if I lived for 10,000 years.
Reverse the question. Let's say we lived forever and you ask me, do you want to die in 40 years? Why would I say yes?
That's your first time ever riding a bike?
There is so much more you can do. Right now, you can only make plans to do something for a decade or two. Imagine possibilities open to you with infinite time in an infinite universe.
Gosh.
And that's where science and creative pursuits to me are the things, and just learning in general are the things that are, daily things to work on, because the creative pursuits, the ones, learning a new instrument, picking up painting, picking up drawing, sculpting, whatever, any type of creative outlet is something that you can do and work on every day, or, work on different ones every day. You can work on improving them and, being able to have creative outlets like that.
And what I like about his philosophy actually is after you deal with these things and you bring down your stress level, if what you're focusing on is a better, safer world where you don't accidentally die, and like I think the moment he decided he wanted to do this, he became hyper aware of what can kill you, and you can do everything to your body to try to prevent it from dying, but that's not going to stop a bus from hitting you. And oops, like when he was going through that room and handing out the earplugs, realizing that yes, if you are doing something like that, hurting your ears like that, it might actually affect you on a bigger physical level, especially over time, because it compounds into other things that make you feel and get older.
Yeah. And one thing about living for so long, I mean, I remember in a Star Trek episode where they visit some planet where people live, hundreds of years. It might have been one of the Star Trek movies even. People lived for hundreds of years, right? So they had craftsmen who were making, weaving these things. And it was like something that was beautiful tapestry or whatever. And it was made by, people who were novices who had only been studying for 20 years or so, but then there were people who had been doing this for 300 years and they were making these other things that were fantastic. But it's about having enough time to really, truly master these things. But again, not dying is about, not doing the stupid things, doing the healthy things, making good choices about the things going forward. It's not necessarily about having, all the technology to be able to counteract eating the too many Big Macs in the first place, right? It's about making the better choices about what you're eating because you know what your body runs on. And you're basically what he was talking about being the most studied, by doing all those tests, getting good baselines, and by studying over time, you are seeing the direction of things. Like if you were looking at your weight very closely every day and you wanted to be lighter, but you see the numbers going up, you would make conscious decisions because you're seeing the number go up. So you make conscious decisions to make it come down,
Even if you wanted it to be lighter, if it wasn't better for you, if it wasn't healthier, and I think what Brian's really doing here is trying to figure out exactly the measurements between good or bad physically and what is such a perfect weight that you want to be at.
Yeah. And then there is, a range, right? A tolerance where, you can gain a few pounds, you can lose a few pounds, you can be a little bit heavier, you can be a little bit lighter, but there's a spot where you'd like to be, a sweet spot where your body wants to run. Some people, might want to run with a little bit more mass on it because their body runs cold or whatever.
Where's the weight coming from? Is it coming from muscle mass? Is it coming from stored protein? Like,
but again, that's something that I think is different individual to individual, where, somebody could be as skinny as a rail and eat like a monster, right? But their metabolism is just cranking like ridiculous. And then somebody else could be very heavy, but they eat like a bird and still they can never lose weight because they're not that active or whatever. There's different things depending on your body is the real thing to look at, right? Because individual people are going to have very different regimens that are going to work for them. So that's where it's important to see what does your body need and what does your body like. Because, what works for you might be something I'm allergic to, or what works for me might be something that you hate or whatever. Like there's different things. You got to make sure what works for you is going to work.
it'd be like deciding on a diet for a drummer versus a bassist.
Yeah, exactly. Or a workout for that matter.
All right, Glenn, we're going to get you working out.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm actually moving to a new place over the next week or two, and I will have room for that. And that is on the agenda for sure.
Yeah. So at Brian Johnson, fascinating story to follow. In this longevity technology discussion, this is the story right now, the most interesting story.
Absolutely.
And it is a balance of pills and the 2 million he's spending a year. It's for a whole bunch of different things to deal with different like parts of aging and health.
Right. And I'm sure some fraction of that is having, 30 physicians on staff to do testing all the time. So, I mean,
It's awesome that if you're gonna experiment like this, take the data, research it, document that data. That's useful information. He's
also
actually performing a service, if you think about it, to humanity.
and also make the good small decisions on a daily basis, and just think about that, don't die, that very simple philosophy about, we want to make it to that escape velocity is a good way to look at it, really. Making it to the point where longevity is escape velocity happens, where we're just able to get to the point where we can get around a lot of the things that would take us out early.
Well, and if you reach that point where you can actually keep your body alive as long as nobody drives a wooden stake through your heart, like in which case you're not immortal.
Yep, exactly. Avoid things like that. Yeah,
that's kind of like gonna be the challenge if they solve all of this. It's like, wow, as long as we don't kill ourselves, we won't die. But then it's all about that world that like you don't want to over pollute, you don't want to have it like angry with you and killing you that way.
And that's the thing, is AI is very smart and can help us with a lot of things, but we may, when it comes to global warming, when it comes to the direction the environment has been heading, there's only so much we can do because there is so much energy in the system that, it's going to do what it's going to do, and we're going to have to kind of ride that out. I don't think AI is going to have a lot to say about it in a helpful way, but at the same time, I am hopeful that, things will kind of turn around on their own, where, the earth will balance itself out. It's a question of how bad it'll be for us.
It'll be like an Alanis Morissette level catch 22, where We made AI and learned to live, but that AI eventually destroyed the planet. So yay, we get to live forever, except the planet won't. Half of his message there is in tune with that, which I think is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to live forever on a planet that lives forever. And for our last video, this channel, it is the channel for this kind of information. The one that kept popping up as I was looking for specific things, and everything that we cover tonight is what this channel's for. At Longevity Science News, it's all about the research and development here.
And it's a field that has been, it's been around for a while. Because even I remember years ago, there were some supplements that were out there that didn't make specific claims about longevity because they couldn't promise certain things.
Yeah.
But they were just basically saying that this is something that, it could help in the long run. It should help with doing this or that. And it was about basically trying to, it was about the telomere extension or telomere, stopping the shortening of the telomeres at the end of the chromosomes and seeing if that would help. But it was something that, again, didn't try to make any big promises. It's not saying it's going to reverse anything, but it's saying this could be a preventative thing that could help in the long run.
Yeah. And supplements was one of the things that Brian, in that video where he did try one because it claimed that it was going to benefit there. And that's one of the ones that made him age instead of de-age. So he's like, I'm not taking this anymore because it's doing the opposite of what it's supposed to.
Yeah. And that's where the data is important with him, testing himself so regularly as he's doing these things.
Yeah. So at Longevity Science News is going to give us the 5 real innovations that we've seen so far in 2026. And there's some big ones. This is real time. Like, these are things that are starting to be put in place.
Right.
Now, this one, this is our special spotlight video of the night. We're going to bring it up like so.
An age reversal study just got greenlit by the FDA. Cancer vaccines are erasing brain tumors in 48 hours, and scientists figured out how to regrow human teeth. I'm not kidding. And the year just started. So if you're paying attention to longevity science, the start of 2026 has been absolutely insane. Breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. So in this episode, I'm running down what I think are the 5 most impactful stories in longevity science, any one of which could reshape the future of human health. Let's get into it. Welcome to Longevity Science News. I'm Emmett Short. I talk a lot about technology that's coming soon, but recently I did a review of a little piece of tech that you can get today that tracks your longevity biomarkers and coaches you on how to live a longer, healthier life. It's the Hume Band, and I did a full review on this on the channel. And with our link and our code, you can get 20% off the Hume Band. I'll put that link in the description of this video, along with my full review as well. And guys,
Glenn, we got to join another band
with Matt Scholes. He's the founder and CEO of Ocean. That's a biotechnology company. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he had a lot of great behind the scenes inside info on what's happening in the longevity space. If you want access to that and a bunch of other interviews that we've done with CEOs, you can become a member here on YouTube or join us on Patreon. Today, we're covering 5 health breakthroughs to watch in 2026. These aren't predictions. These aren't someday maybe stories. These are things happening right now in labs, in clinical trials, and in some cases already in patients. So strap in, we got a lot to cover. First up, the big one. On January 27th, the FDA greenlit what might be the most significant longevity trial in history. Life Biosciences, co-founded by Harvard's David Sinclair, just got approval to test a gene therapy that actually rewinds the age of human cells. Let me explain what's happening here. You know how a gas station bathroom mirror kind of gets destroyed over time? People draw on it with Sharpies or stick their gum to it. Someone carves Jerry was here with car keys in it. Here's the thing. The actual mirror underneath is still fine. The reflective surface is totally intact. It's just that the glass needs a good polish, and the scratches need to be resurfaced. Well, your cells are the same way. As you age, your DNA doesn't really change. The mirror is still there, but the instructions for how to read the DNA, they get all scratched up and vandalized. It's called epigenetic drift. And Life Biosciences may have figured out how to resurface the mirror. Their therapy, called ER100, uses 3 proteins called Yamanaka factors to restore the epigenetic patterns in aged cells back to a younger state. Here's Life Biosciences Chief Operating Officer Michael Ringel explaining it.
Epigenetic reprogramming is taking the same technology that makes babies young from our old cells and applying it to our own cells. So when a baby is born, it just comes from our own cells, which of course are adult. And what happens between day 7 and 9 after the embryo is fertilized, what's called the epigenetic marks are wiped clean off the DNA. These are the methyl groups, acetyl groups, and so on that are on the DNA and the histones that the DNA is wrapped around. They're wiped clean, and from that moment, the cell behaves as if it's young. So actually for the first few days after fertilization, the cell behaves old. It functionally is old, epigenetically is old, transcriptionally is old. But after that period, it's young, and it doesn't inherit the age-related diseases that the parent had. If the parent had Alzheimer's, right, the baby is not born with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, when you have a baby at 32, your baby doesn't, come out 32. That would be weird. Life Biosciences is using that same biological trick, but they're applying it to your cells while they're still inside you. Now, they're starting with the eyes. The first trial is going to target patients with serious vision loss from conditions like glaucoma and optic nerve damage. Why eyes? Because you can deliver the therapy locally, monitor it easily, and if something goes wrong, the effects are contained. But make no mistake, if this works, they're not stopping at the eyes. This is the first human trial of partial epigenetic reprogramming, and it could open the door to reversing aging in every tissue in the body. All right, bombshell number 2, or bombshells in this case. If you're a cancer cell, January 2026 has been a pretty bad month for you. And I've got so many stories to share here that I'm just going to kind of rapid fire through them. First up, brain cancer. Scientists at the University of Florida created an mRNA cancer vaccine that erased deadly brain tumors in early human trials. No chemo, no radiation. They tested it on 4 glioblastoma patients. That's one of the deadliest cancers there is. And the vaccine reprogrammed their immune systems within 48 hours to attack the tumor. And the vaccine is built from each patient's own tumor cells and then delivered via lipid nanoparticles. So it's now moving into phase 1 pediatric trials. And speaking of glioblastoma, this woman's husband has terminal glioblastoma, life expectancy 12 to 15 months, but he's on his 4th injection of a therapy called Angified, and his latest scan came back normal. The cavity where the tumor was filled with normal brain matter. Which brings me to the drama. Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the billionaire surgeon who developed Angified, has just been making the rounds on literally all the TV talk shows and podcasts talking up Angified because for some reason, it's not being approved for many cancers, despite working well against all types.
Dr. Pat says the drug works by activating what he calls natural killer cells that destroy cancer cells. So far, about 1,000 patients have participated in his trials, but the drug has only been FDA approved here to treat a specific kind of bladder cancer. And that's the problem. The doctor believes it will work for a lot of different cancers.
Really significant proof, multiple trials, 10 years of work in which we've shown that this actually prolongs survival, whether it's breast cancer, lung cancer, and even pancreatic cancer, now glioblastoma. So this is a universal treatment. We've now developed this drug. It's approved, and it's approved, as you said, just for this minuscule treatment of bladder cancer.
This looks like one of the most groundbreaking cancer treatments ever developed. And in my opinion, it's a crime to be so slow to let people who are dying try it. So hopefully Dr. Pat's media tour moves the needle. But the cancer news ain't over yet. Researchers at MIT and Stanford created something called ABLEX, antibody lectin chimeras. Here's the problem they solved. Cancer cells hide behind a sugar shield, and that makes them invisible to your immune system. Ablex strips away that shield, and they combine antibodies that target tumors with lectins that attach to those protective sugars, effectively peeling away the cancer's camouflage. And in some early lab studies, they triggered stronger anti-cancer responses than some current treatments. And then there's this, a universal mRNA cancer vaccine that works off the shelf. Most cancer vaccines have to be custom made for each patient's specific tumor. This one, it's designed to trigger a broad immune response that goes after many types of solid tumors. It's called mRNA 4359, and it's already in phase 1 human trials in the UK for melanoma and lung cancer. And now MIT and Microsoft have developed an AI system that designs tiny peptide sensors attached to nanoparticles, and these sensors seek out cancer-linked enzymes called proteases anywhere in your body. The results? Well, early stage cancer detection. Just pee on a strip in your bathroom, get screened for dozens of cancers. Wow. And finally, this one's wild. A study of 200 cancer patients found that immunotherapy responders all had a specific gut bacteria called Akkermansia muciniphila. I potentially said that correct. Non-responders didn't have it. In lab models, restoring this one bacteria made tumors shrink and disappear. So your gut bacteria might determine whether cancer treatment even works on you. Okay, that was a lot. I told you, cancer's having a really bad month.
I gotta say, this cancer development and research that they've done just in this half of the year, incredible progress in such a small time there.
Yeah, and stripping of the sugar shield, the way they strip that sugar shield is basically a different approach. I like that approach. You know, it's a way of removing the camouflage from the cell.
Is it actually like eating that shield, or is it just because it
That is
made
the
me
question.
it made me think of, you remember when they came up with that bacteria to eat oil after the Exxon Valdez? Is that the kind of approach they're going there, where they're removing something to, or
It's removing. It's basically removing a shell, a shield around the the nucleus of the cell, or sorry, a shield around the rest of the cell that's making it not able to be detected by the rest of the normal immune response from the body. So by getting rid of that, then the regular immune responses should be able to more accurately get rid of the cancer cells at that point. Yeah,
But
very promising.
when you get rid of something, regardless of your intentions, what are the
That's
side
the question.
effects?
Yeah, that is the question.
It's like,
Are there healthy, are there healthy cells in that area that would have that kind of a shield around them that you would then be harming with that? That was my first thought as well.
yeah.
But I'm
That's
assuming
where
that is the first thing that they
testing.
were going against,
Yeah, that's where the testing takes a little while to get it
But
right.
just understanding why, again, it comes back down to why is it that the body isn't attacking those cells, and by determining that it is that sheath or shield that's around them that is preventing it is an important method to then attack, to try to go in from that vector.
We have learned so much about our bodies, Glenn.
Yeah.
It only took 50 years.
And there's a lot more to learn every day.
Let's see where we go next.
Month. Okay, let's switch gears to something equally exciting. What if you could regrow the parts of your body that wear out? Not replace them, not manage the damage, just actually regenerate them. That future is getting very close, and let's start with your joints. Stanford researchers just published a study showing they can regenerate cartilage lost to aging or arthritis using either an oral drug or a local injection. So if this translates to humans, it could make knee and hip replacements unnecessary. I mean, think about that. Millions of people every year go through major surgery to replace worn out joints. I've done it with my thumb. This approach would simply just regrow cartilage. That would have saved me a lot of money and a lot of pain. Oh, that would have been great. Okay, now sink your teeth into this. Japanese scientists are advancing human clinical trials of a drug that may allow people to regrow lost teeth. So the drug targets a gene called USAG1 that normally stops tooth development after your adult teeth come in. If you block that gene, you're basically firing up the old tooth-making machine. Just hope they all grow in the right spot. Phase 1 trial starts in September 2024 with 30 adult men missing at least one tooth. If everything goes well, this treatment could be available to patients by around 2030. Yeah, dentures, implants, those businesses will be obsolete. You got a cavity? Just pull it, grow a new one. And then there's this announcement from New Limit. Blake Byers, co-founder of New Limit, just announced they've invented their first anti-aging medicine, and it regenerates your liver, making it a decade or two younger. I'll drink to that. They're spending a couple more years optimizing and then launching human clinical trials, and they're already working on anti-aging medicines for the immune system and vascular system. Cartilage, teeth, liver, and that's just the beginning. Okay, this one is going to make a lot of people very, very excited. So you've heard about Ozempic, Wegovy, and the new one coming soon, retatrutide, the GLP-1 drugs that are revolutionizing weight loss. The problem, you have to shoot yourself up, like forever. Weekly injections for life. Stop taking them, the weight comes back. What if you only needed one shot? A company called Fractal Health is working on one-time GLP-1 gene therapies. Here's how it works. They deliver genes directly into your pancreatic beta cells, the same cells that produce insulin. These genes are under the control of the insulin promoter, which means, 1, GLP-1 is only released in response to food, not constantly, just only when you eat. 2, systemic exposure is limited. Way fewer side effects than current drugs. So they have 2 versions in development. One is GLP-1 on its own, like semaglutide, and then the other one is GLP-1 plus GIP, like tirzepatide. And here's the kicker, the first humans are being dosed this year. 1 injection, permanent effect, no more weekly shots. Incredible. All right, this next one's personal for a lot of people. Multiple sclerosis affects nearly 3 million people worldwide. It's an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks the protective coating around your nerves. And for decades, we haven't known why it happens, but it looks like we do now. Scientists just identified 2 specific gut bacteria that appears to trigger multiple sclerosis. And the bacteria are called, I'm going to butcher this, I'm just going to put them up on the screen. And researchers proved the connection using one of the most elegant study designs possible, identical twins. Here's why that matters. Identical twins share nearly every gene. So if one twin has MS and the other doesn't, the difference usually comes from environmental factors. The researchers found 81 pairs of identical twins where only one sibling had MS, and they analyzed their gut microbiomes. And those 2 bacteria kept showing up in the affected twins. But they didn't stop there. They took gut microbes from both twins and transplanted them into specially bred mice. The mice that received bacteria from the MS twin developed paralysis within 12 weeks, and the mice that received bacteria from the healthy twin rarely developed any symptoms. Same genes, different bacteria, completely different outcomes. This is huge. If MS is being triggered by specific gut bacteria, that opens the door to entirely new treatments, probiotics, targeted antibiotics, maybe even fecal microbiome transplants, poo pills, if you will. There's already a case report of an MS patient whose symptoms did improve after receiving a fecal transplant via poo pill. So we might be looking at MS becoming a manageable or even preventable condition within the next few years. All right, that's our rundown of 5 bombshells dropping in longevity science right now. To recap, 1, Life Biosciences got FDA approval to test cellular age reversal in humans. 2, cancer is getting absolutely just demolished by new vaccines, immunotherapies, and detection methods. 3, regeneration of cartilage, teeth, and liver tissue is becoming a reality. 4, one-shot GLP-1 gene therapy could end the obesity epidemic. 5, scientists identified the gut bacteria triggering MS. All right, which of these stories has you most excited? Which one do you want me to do a deeper dive on? Let me know in the comments. This is Longevity Science News. I'm Emmett Short. Stay young.
Don't mute the Tony.
That's what I get for clicking.
Oh, and your microphone's up top too.
Don't fuck with me.
There you are.
Damn it, Emmett. This channel was a great addition. Freshy channel, but longevity, I will be there subscribed
And
forever.
there's a lot of great developments and a lot of good angles to see it from. And again, each one of those, they're talking about the different regenerating tissues ones are all ones that point towards that whole longevity escape velocity, right? They're all getting there.
The cancer ones like really excite me because everybody deals with it in one way or another somewhere, and the ones they were talking about there are some of the most common ones that will actually take care of a lot of problems there. uh, Gene reprogramming, gene manipulation, in some cases, like some of these approaches, I'm excited, and you know me, like cautious. Okay, you mean we're gonna play God? We're gonna question the original code and fool it into something else.
It's one place where I also like when they talked about the approach of the initial testing with the eyes, right? Like the ones that are getting the retinal therapies, and the idea that when it comes to the eyes, it's something that is very localized. It's something that they can administer locally. They can check locally. They can, if there is problems, it contains it locally. And, I like that whole aspect of it. And it's something that has always been just, textbook answer, you cannot regrow optic nerves. Like you cannot regrow retinal cells. Like there were certain things that you just can't do. And to actually be able to switch that around and say, okay, well, now you can, that makes an enormous difference. Yeah.
Well, yeah, optical cells, brain cells. Can we really regrow brain cells, or
Can we control it? Like when you hear about it, growing cells to fill that void, like then they know to stop, right? Like that's the other question, right? So there are important questions to ask, but it's obvious that those considerations had to be looked at some point.
and that's why I wouldn't necessarily want to be a beta tester on growing that new tooth. But once you figure it out and it works, I'll do one.
Well, the other thing is that in most of these things, that it would be the people that need the help the most would be like first, right? Like the people who have like none of their teeth. If they start, testing this out, and they all grow back, like that's a whole thing, like where if somebody only is missing one tooth, maybe it's not worth it to necessarily do this entire thing just to regrow one. But it depends on how much it's affecting your day-to-day life, right?
And how complicated the science is. I mean,
And how safe
if it turns out to be like real easy and pretty cheap, and then that's how tomorrow's technology tends to start.
Yeah. And again, if it does, if something like a generalized vaccine for cancer that they were talking about there as a thing there, if something like that became possible and approved, I mean, talk about ridiculous, right?
Well, and to be an option, because cost, the things that make these things options sometimes is accessibility and cost and regulation, and a lot of this and the research, why it does take a while to get it right and get it out there, is all those layers.
And think about the people who are most in need of these things would be the ones who would first be willing to sign up for the clinical trials to get these things, tested. The people who are suffering from the worst,
the MS, when he mentioned about MS, and like the idea that like immune systems, nervous systems, they're very complicated, and immune systems, when you do have a deficiency there or a problem there, I could see some AI solutions where that immune system didn't work properly, but we figured out how to make it work properly. The scary side is this was working properly, or we did this for one thing, and all of a sudden, cascading effect of
unintended consequences,
side effects, and there will always be a small percentage of side effects. I don't care how perfect the drug or solution is. There will always be. Like that 1% that they put all that little writing at the bottom of the commercial that the dude says real fast. Yes, I heard anal leakage in there. I don't want this film.
That's a hard pass.
I'll do anything else.
I don't need potato chips that much.
Well, maybe I do. Oh, that was a good rabbit hole. I'm glad you threw that at me last week because it is one that fascinates me. I kept up with it up till the AI portion, 5, 6 years ago. Everything has changed.
Yeah. And again, what has changed in the last the amount of change in the last 5, 6 years is what we're going to see in the next 5, 6 months, right? Like that's kind of the way this whole progression is going along where, we don't have all this runway ahead of us to getting to these things. Like they're all imminent in front of us. And it's really just about the speed at which we can get regulations, to go forward, the speed at which we can get tests to be confirm the results. And a lot of these things you can't see results right away. Like these things are you need 5-year tests, you need 10-year tests, you need certain things
to be
see
responsible if you want to
Right.
do it responsibly.
And some of the things that are, if they come up with the greatest the best possible results, right, and the minimal possible side effects, if we get to those kinds of places, we can start administering these things quickly to those who need it the most. And again, that gets more of us into that position of just don't die, right? And then that'll get us to where we can then work on the rest of the problems and work on getting everybody to have more healthy years. And I love all of that. And certain things like just ergonomics, is a very simple thing, but if people sit in a bad position all the time, they're going to you get that hunched over posture, right? So it's important to sit up straight and things like that. All these things are little things that we can do on a daily basis to help us get to that place where science can bring us the rest of the way to many more healthy years.
Yeah, we don't want to be those fat people on that cruise ship in that Disney cartoon in the future.
Exactly.
Like, everybody's huge.
Exactly. And everyone's lying back and doing the whole video thing. Yeah, there are some very dystopian futures that we could be looking at up there. But that's where I like the fact that we do see some very positive things going on with these things.
Yeah, and I think science overall is being responsible. They're not like reckless. Granted, AI, social media, all this stuff came quick and we're still trying to figure out what we're dealing with, but at the same time, I think the innovators and the ones long term, longevity term, are trying to do it responsibly. They're not trying to rush this.
Yeah, it's too important to get wrong,
If you get it wrong, you might actually do like that anti-aging situation where like, damn, I thought we were going to make society live longer and we we cut the cord.
One thing that it reminds me of is plastic surgery, where best intentions, early plastic surgery, like they did good work, what it looked like good work at the very beginning, but then you see what happened over time with the results and how they didn't account for how things could
and in the
happen over
case
time.
in the case of physical appearance, there even better example, Botox, which initially came out like, hey, my lips can get fatter and I can look like Angelina Jolie. Not a good reason to inject yourself with poison. But it does actually help with migraines, and come to find out, like, this shit can be useful in the right scenario. And
a lot of times it's just not about trying to go after the things for beauty, but focusing more on the things for health, in terms of these kinds of breakthroughs, like we're looking at ones that can cure cancer, that's like a really big kind of thing.
That's a noble cause.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
wanting to look like Angelina Jolie. Okay, cool, pretty people. It's nice to have more of them, but I want to cure cancer first.
Yes. And that comes back to the don't die. So let's not die. And everybody else, try to stay alive for another week. And we'll be back.
We will be back. I'm going to avoid the buses and the weird mosquitoes.
Good plan.
I will survive.
And we'll see everybody next time then.
Night, everyone.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much RAM. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking